If you're planning a trip to Australia, stick around because we've got 10 interesting facts you need to know before hopping on that plane. Fact 1. Did you know that Australia is home to over 26 million inhabitants? And get this, more than 200,000 migrants come to our shores every year. Australia is a land of diverse cultures and backgrounds, and it's no surprise that many people from around the world choose to make it their home. Before the pandemic, Australia welcomed a significant number of migrants each year. But border closures during the pandemic saw Australian net overseas migration drop to minus 85,000 in 2020 to 2021. Now, Australia is trying to attract new migrants to catch up to its pre-pandemic migration levels, but the actual number of people coming to Australia is still very low, so we may need to wait until 2030 to get back on track. Fact 2. Ironically, back in the 1700s, nobody wanted to come to Australia. Australia wasn't exactly on everyone's bucket list for a vacation. You ask why? Well, you see, in the 1700s, the British decided to use this land as a place to send their prisoners. Yep, you heard that right. It was basically a giant prison without fences. So, as you can imagine, not many folks were lining up to move to a penal colony. The whole land of opportunity vibe was definitely not a thing at the time. But oh boy, how things have changed. Australia has become a major destination for people from all over the world, with over 7.5 million migrants settling there since 1945. The population is now a beautiful tapestry of cultures and backgrounds, and the days of being a prison dumping ground are long gone. Fact 3. Kangaroo lovers, rejoice. There are over 40 million kangaroos hopping around in Australia, which is more than double the Australian population. So for each Aussie, there are at least 2 kangaroos. This has led to conflicting attitudes toward kangaroos, with many considering them pests due to their large numbers and the damage they can cause to crops and their negative impact on livestock. That's why conservation efforts are in full swing to strike the right balance between our furry friends and our farming needs. Actually, part of those conservation efforts is eating kangaroo meat. Yes, this is actually a thing in Australia. Some folks see it as a super sustainable option, plus it's one of the healthiest red meats around, like seriously lean and packed with iron. But get this, not many Aussies actually chow down on kangaroo meat. It's a bit of a cultural thing. I mean, imagine biting into your national emblem. It's like chomping on the American bald eagle. Plus, there's this whole roadkill association that makes some people a bit squeamish about it. I would also feel uncomfortable eating kangaroo meat thinking they are killed by trucks on the road. On the flip side, there are chefs and experts who reckon that eating kangaroo is totally cool. In fact, a big chunk of the meat is exported, mainly to places like Russia and Europe. Fact 4. Here's a wild one for you. Australia actually has a larger population of camels than Egypt. Who would have thought? The Guinness World Records has recognized Australia as the home of the largest population of wild camels in the world. I mean, we're talking about a herd of camels estimated to be around 750,000. That's a whole lot of humps roaming around the Aussie outback. Now, when you compare that to Egypt, well, they've got a population of around 99,600 camels, not even 100,000. And these Aussie camels aren't just your ordinary wild bunch, though. They're actually feral, which means they're domesticated camels that have gone rogue and are now living it up in the wild. And they can be a bit of a handful. They are highly mobile, with some groups foraging over 70 kilometers a day, destroying vegetation, drinking up all the water from vulnerable ecosystems, damaging fences, and sometimes even becoming aggressive and territorial during mating season. So how do we control their population? We shoot them dead from helicopters. Not joking. This is serious. Just Google camel culling Australia. Fact 5. Now don't pack just your flip-flops and sunscreen. Contrary to popular belief, Australia isn't always scorching hot. You wouldn't believe it, but Australia does have its own winter wonderland, and yes, even Alps for skiing. The Australian Alps, with 16 ski resorts, are spread across New South Wales and Victoria. Now, when I say Alps, I'm not talking about the European giants, but these Aussie Alps still pack a punch. The highest ski resort in Australia is Thredbo, with a vertical drop of 2,037 meters. That's some serious slope action right there. The Australian Alps can get pretty chilly in winter, with nighttime temperatures dropping to around minus 2 degrees Celsius on average. Now, this is nothing compared to the cold in Canada, where winter temperatures can plummet to lows of minus 40 degrees Celsius. Now, that's what I call freezing. not even as cold as the Swiss Alps with freezing temperatures of minus 15 degrees Celsius. But the Australian Alps actually receive more snowfall than the Swiss Alps. The unique geography of the Australian Alps, their proximity to the coast, and the weather patterns contribute to the significant snowfall they receive. And hey, who would have thought that you could go from surfing at Bondi Beach to shredding the slopes in the Aussie Alps? Fact 6. Did you know that Australia was the second country in the world to grant most women the right to vote? The first country was New Zealand in 1893, and Australia followed suit in 1902. This was a significant milestone for gender equality and women's rights, and it set an inspiring example for other nations around the world. Though it took the United States another 20 years to catch up as they granted women the right to vote in 1920. A bit too late, but we'll take it. Fact 7. Forget the stereotypes, folks. Not all Aussies are blonde beach bums. There's a misconception that all Aussies are blonde, handsome, and can surf like pros. I mean, sure, we've got some seriously talented surfers, our beaches are legendary, and we've got Thor, but not every Aussie is out there hanging 10 on the waves. Surfing is a big part of the Aussie culture, no doubt. We've got some world-class surf spots and a rich surfing history, and I may tell you about that in another video. But hey, not every Aussie is a surf guru. Some are more at home on the footy field, camping in the outback, or even just chilling at a local cafe. We have a pretty diverse bunch with all kinds of looks, backgrounds, and skills. You'll find people with all hair colors, skin tones, and interests. Fact 8. Aussies love their sports, mate. Most are outdoor enthusiasts, with almost everyone getting out and about for some physical activity at least once a week. Whether it's cricket, rugby, footy, or soccer, we're a nation that's deeply passionate about our sports. You'll find us pouring into pubs for rugby games, spending all day in the sun at cricket matches, and cheering on our favorite teams with true blue Aussie spirit. And when it comes to the outdoors, we're all about making the most of our stunning landscapes and spending time in nature. Fact 9. About 80% of Aussies live within 50 kilometers of the coast, making it a huge part of our laid-back lifestyle. Whether it's surfing, fishing, kayaking, or just soaking up some sunshine, Aussies find countless ways to make the most of our stunning coastline. Only about 20% of the population lives in inner and outer regional Australia. The major cities, such as Sydney and Melbourne, have strong population densities. However, when considering the entire land area of Australia, the overall population density is relatively low, with an average of 3.3 people per square kilometer. Imagine a space the size of a soccer field. Now, picture only 3 or 4 people scattered across that entire area. That's the kind of sparseness we're talking about. This low population density is due to the expansive deserts and remote areas in the country's interior known as the outback. The outback covers millions of square kilometers, and it's home to less than 5% of Australia's entire population. But it's a super popular tourist destination, with attractions like the Devil's Marbles, Kakadu National Park, and Uluru drawing in visitors from around the world. Fact 10. The capital of Australia isn't Sydney like many believe, it's Canberra. Sydney might be famous for its stunning harbour and iconic opera house, but it's no capital material. The real capital of Australia is Canberra, which sits between Sydney and Melbourne. Canberra was chosen as the capital of Australia in a rather unique way. Back in the day, there was a bit of a tussle between the cities of Sydney and Melbourne. They couldn't agree on which one should be the capital, so instead of picking one of the big shots, they decided to build a brand new city right between them. And that's how Canberra came to be. This city was officially designated as the capital in 1913, and it's where all the political action happens. That's all for now, folks. If I got any of the facts wrong, hit me up in those comments.